Yo, what is going on, guys? Godrekton here today, bringing you a new video on the Renekton changes. So, I've been getting a lot of opinions on this topic, and I just thought that maybe it would be a good idea just to make a video on it, because every time I'm on my stream recently, it's like, oh, what do you think about the Renekton changes, all this and that, and I have to keep repeating myself, so I figured why not just make a video on it, and also kind of just, like, tell you what I directly think, show the differences in like what Renekton was before and after, and you know, just kind of go on like maybe some stuff that I would like, you know, instead. But to begin, what are the changes with Renekton? So the main changes I'll put on the screen right now. So basically, his health growth is increasing from 92 to 97. His AD growth has been increased from 3.75 to 4.15. His W's base hit, unempowered W, sorry, damage has been increased by an extra 20 late game, and his W on the flip side of that is also getting nerfed a little bit by 3 seconds early, but will go down a second by 1 second later on at rank 5 W. And I think the biggest change of them all, which really took me off guard, was the fact that they increased the R damage, which is probably the biggest thing in this whole change, to be quite honest. And to quickly go over in this other screenshot too about the empowered W, basically, you're getting another 60 damage on your empowered W late game, in total, that is. Overall, these are pretty interesting changes, but how much of a difference is this actually making it for Renekton? And will this actually help him? If we like just add all the differences, I'll put it on the screen too maybe. So, in total, the health we're getting from this health growth change, we're receiving an additional 85 health from last patch, which, you know, it's still not enough to make up for the R changes that were, you know, done a while ago now, where Renekton lost 200 health off his R, but it's certainly not, you know, not far away because of the base health he had as well, like towards the end of Season 11. In terms of his AD growth, we're actually getting 6.8 extra AD from before, which, you know, isn't really any, I mean, it's kind of big, you can say, if you're using Sterox, which is, you know, which means we get an extra 3 AD on Sterox, but as an item, I don't think it's really good, as I like kind of proved in my other video. In terms of this change, I don't think it really matters too much, but you know, it's still nice nevertheless. In terms of his W, Renekton is getting an extra 40 extra damage on unempowered W at rank 5, which is, you know, kind of nice, but I mean, I'll go into what I actually think soon. And then obviously with the empowered W, I've already said that, getting an extra 60 additional damage. And finally, his R is actually giving us an extra 465 additional magic damage. And this is obviously factoring the double tick at the start as well, which isn't really talked about or specified on the Renekton wiki if you are looking. So overall, these changes are definitely very interesting, and they do provide Renekton a little bit of extra scaling, which is kind of the intention of the changes. And if you just want to know like quick damage numbers, because obviously, you know, people love combos and stuff like that, I'll show some clips on the screen now. But before you see me getting 4,245 damage with a DPS of 1,627. And next I have 4,386 from the post changes currently on PvE with a DPS of 17,024 or 1,724, sorry. But yeah, like, it's not really big, but I'm just showing it as an example. What do I like and dislike about these changes? Firstly, what I like about these changes, and I've always been very skeptical on about Renekton, is that they're very safe buffs. I think right now, Renekton is actually pretty decent. In fact, I think Renekton is in a really good spot, as long as the player knows how to play him. And I'm not just saying this because, you know, I'm a one trick and I'm not trying to be entitled or this and that, like an elitist, but I really do think that Renekton shines, like, as much as the player does. So if the player is really good at certain fundamental aspects of the game, whether that's wave management, then mechanical play, then macro, all these elements will make you a better Renekton player, because Renekton abuses these things to the absolute max. And he's a really great snowballing champion too, if you really know how to play the game. In terms of these changes, I think they're very safe, and they didn't really push anything overboard. Like, I don't think any of these changes are going to make Renekton pick or ban. If anything, I think Renekton's going to go under the radar, which actually helps a lot of one-tricks be able to shine a little bit more in their games. Now, it's not adding, you know, a whole depth of new stuff, per se, but it's still kind of interesting, and I think the changes themselves are very, like, good. But, what do I actually dislike about these changes, you might ask as well? I think they could actually be doing a little bit more with Renekton. Like, if we look at the champion, he's a Season 1, Season 2 champ. Like, he's, you know, he has definitely some very outdated things. Like, the fact if we E here, it's, like, very, like, you know, there's so many champions that can E-flash. Oh, let me change this. E-flash. But Renekton doesn't have that, of course. Like, one thing that Renekton did have for one or two patches in 7.9 and 7.10, when they were doing experimental changes, was that they actually did have a an E-flash, which meant like you could do this combo and then get your dice right after, which, you know, adds more skill expression, and I'm a big fan of that personally. I come from a perspective with Renekton where, like, I would rather the buffs entail something towards his skill factor, like his skill ceiling, rather than giving like damage like changes, because I don't think Renekton needs damage. Renekton's always had high damage if you can play him in the right hands. I just think it's like certain mechanics that he could have, or certain extra things as well. Like, you know, they could have done a revert on the Q. The Q did lose a lot of health from what it used to have, and I feel like toning that back a little bit, like giving his some health back, would be pretty nice in harder matchups. But either way, I think with how the game is right now, with like the runes you can take and so on, I think Renekton's actually kind of fine with how you play it. It's just that you need to be a little bit more smart, and you have to preserve your Q a little bit more. The other thing I do dislike, in a way, but I don't really mind, is the fact that they are nerfing Renekton's W to being 16 seconds at rank 1. Now, obviously, it's not the end of the world, and in another video I'm making, I do talk about this new strat called the Fury Cheese level 1, which entails taking W, and then obviously counter cheesing your opposition, which I will obviously make a video about that very soon. That still lives. I've still tried that out, so that technique still works, if you are wondering. But it's like a very new thing too. I've only talked to a few people about it, but that works anyways. Just to clarify that. Now, I think in some matchups early, this might be pretty problematic. But if we do think about it, like, Renekton's often waiting for E anyways. Like, every time your E's up, you're going for these trades, and as long as like you're timing cooldowns effectively, like, you can always still abuse people like Gnar, Vladimir, all those champions, because you're relying off your E to come up to, you know, allow you to combo. So it's really not the end of the world. And while we don't really get the benefits till later on in the game, I do suppose like there could be a new strategy where we could put some points early into W. I don't know how good this would be, but it's all just theory crafting, and I think as a community, we kind of need to figure this out. Like, there's ideas where we could put 2 points in W, and then obviously kind of play along that, like start maxing Q then E, and then finish off with W. Or there's even a world where you put 3 points and then max FQ then E. But it all depends on the matchup. Like, obviously, something like that wouldn't really be great into a Jax or a Gangplank, for instance. Like, harder matchups where Q is pretty essential to poke and obviously get better healing. However, for like some other matchups like Riven or something like that, but ones that we can fight more often, I could see like a couple points in W being beneficial, and we do somewhat get a little bit of the extra bonuses from the damage, but I don't really think the damage is the highlight in this buff. It's more of like the later on change, but yeah. So with all that being said, I do think the biggest change in this whole patch is definitely R. And if you're wondering about any other things too, like have Riot changed anything else, like mechanics, there is not anything new as far as I can tell, but I am playing with higher ping, but I've done every combo and nothing seems to be any different. Like, every old thing works, if you are, again, wondering at a department. But, yeah, I mean, I think it's a very safe change. Like, again, I've been having success with Renekton. While I'm not, like, having high LP, I know there's a lot of people around me that also are having a lot of success, like 3-in-1 Warrior, Yu Xiaoyu, and there's these other Koreans too, like Powder Snow, a guy called Nana. Like, all these people are still showing that you can get high elo, and if they can do it on a champion like this that is considered weak and has a bad win rate, I don't think that just goes about saying the champion's weak. I think it's more just showing that a lot of people don't know what it takes to actually play Renekton, and I think it's a mindset thing, and the fact they're short-sighting themselves into the champion itself rather than the actual game. And I feel like a lot of people only build one way on Renekton too, and because they're building one way, that's severely limiting their actual potential to play, like in other builds, and being able to be more versatile in other scenarios of the game. Like, I still stand on my point that Renekton's probably one of the best champs in the game, because you can win every matchup and you can build so many different items that you always have a position and role in the game. It's just how you play it that ultimately matters. So all that being said, like, I think Renekton's in a pretty good spot, and I think these changes are a bit of a bonus to one-tricks. Like, if you're a one-trick right now, and you're really open to just learning and trying all these different builds and just having different perspectives and working on your own, like, you know, laning and stuff like that, like, you're gonna really enjoy these changes. And I think the other bit of the patch as well, a lot of things, like, with a lot of things getting nerfed, I think Renekton's gonna be in a very, very good spot. And I don't really see he's struggling right now with the meta. I feel like it's pretty clear-cut what I want to do. Yeah, with all that being said, I think these changes are great. I'm actually really happy Riot didn't break anything. Now, again, in the future, if Riot are looking into stuff, maybe, you know, revert his Q change, maybe add like another mechanic or something, maybe make his E a bit more like consistent. Obviously the E bugs where your E gets cancelled randomly and you don't get dice still exist, or, you know, make it so you can flash E for some skill potential and stuff like that, or even like bring cancels back, like, you know, W Gore, WE, but I don't think Riot's really gotta look into that so much unless they drastically change how the game is, and to a point where Renekton isn't really good. But yeah, I think with all that being said, I'm very happy with the changes, and I think I'll leave it there. My question to you guys is, what do you think of the changes? Do you think I'm incorrect? Do you think I'm correct? Like, what is just your view? What would you like on Renekton? That's ultimately like what I would like to know too, because I see a lot of people prophesizing like adding AD to his ult and all stuff like that, but you have to come from a perspective where the champion is balanced and has clear strengths and weaknesses, and a lot of people don't understand that. Like, imagine I have all these, like, you know, stats I have right now and all the abilities work the same, but then I get like a percentage of AD from my ult that gives like additional, like, I don't know, 100 damage or something. That would be really broken, and I don't think Renekton needs anything like that if he can already play pretty optimally. I guess the only other thing they could have done was change the magic damage, or like the way it works is where the more AD you have or health, it could scale into damage. But being that Riot gave it an extra 400 odd damage increase alone, I think that's fine in long extended trades. So ultimately, they are buffing Renekton's late game power, but not in the way that I expected, because they could have even like gave the health back on his ult. But thinking about how the game is and not like health shred being a thing and stuff like that, I don't think the buffs really gain any value. So unless you're so far ahead in the first place, again, I'm a fan of these changes. You know, I'm gonna abuse them as much as I can because I think Renekton's in a good spot. And if you guys don't believe me, then I just trust you to stick around watching my content, and I will try to prove that to all you guys when I try and get Grandmaster. So with all that being said, thank you all for watching today. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to like. If you want to ask me any questions or anything like that, make sure to leave in the comments below. And if you want to see more of my content, make sure to subscribe. And we'll see you guys next time. Peace out.